All right. So I figured I'd give an introduction to this. I've been having problems with the audio and recording, so I actually recorded 3 hours of content with this. And yeah, the first one I had, I didn't realize my mic was recording. Thought it was not. And so, I removed that. I had, you know, dog issues and a little bit of profanity. And I wasn't really narrating anything because I didn't think the mic was going. The second hour, I thought I had everything sorted out, and so I recorded all the commentary, explained everything, went back and explained stuff from the first episode, and then all that stuff. And I get to the very end of it, and I realized it wasn't recording, so that was bad. And the third hour of it, I thought I had it all sorted out. I went and re-explained everything from the first two episodes, and did a good explaining of everything as I went along. However, there's issues with that one. The audio tracks didn't record right, so uh, all that I'd been messing with. So I actually didn't have any audio at all, which was really unfortunate. So hopefully, with this, I'm just going to record this intro to do basically a mic and a game check, and I'll kind of go over what the what this playthrough is going to be. So first off, I guess mods. There's this one's going to have an effect on gameplay. This planet is has a boost on the like Vulcan has. It has a higher solar irradiance than the restriction of the 500 watts that they put in uh, does. So uh, we'll go to the screen, but I think it's something like I think it's something ridiculous. Like you can pull 2,000 plus kilowatts from a solar panel here because it's so very bright. The entire planet is bright. Yeah, so that's gonna affect the gameplay. The actual world is this one. It's from the workshop. This is I made a local copy of it so I could modify the start conditions. Uh, you know, all all credit goes to this guy here. He or she, they, uh, it's their workshop planet. Uh, they have some, I don't know, there's some choices they made in the loadout that I kind of wanted to move on from, such as they had a whole crate that was full of canned food. Like the old setups were, and the I've been playing on beta, so everything there has moved to the cereal bars and the water packages as you're starting things. So I kind of like went to that. I went to the packaging out certain things, and now I've got it down to two crates. Getting rid of some of the unnecessary stuff, and there's still some more that maybe I want to get rid of, but basically that's just on my for my play style. I wanted to make this modified one. I also got rid of the jetpack for just a hardsuit backpack because I'd rather play without the jetpack. To be honest, I think it's more challenging. You can't just dig down to bedrock mining and expect to be able to get out of there just by zipping on the jetpack or placing cables and stuff up high without having to think about it. So I think that's more fun. So I did that. All right, so here's the world here. Yeah, it's low gravity. It has storms. That should be Earth, but I think that's just how it's named in the world settings. Uh, that should be the star. But yeah, so if you had optimum efficiency, each solar panel could pull in 4 kilowatts. That's ridiculous. But you know, what's it for Vulcan? So it's slightly more than Vulcan, but whatever. So, you know, I'll be using that solar irradiance. Um, and then I'm just going to use basic solar panels. I'm not going to bother with any tracking because that's going to give me a very strong charge for it might just be a limited part of the day, but it'll be a fairly strong charge. Temperatures are fairly moderate. It doesn't move around like Vulcan does. I mean Vulcan that's day and that's night and that's how it is. On this one, that is a storm temperature. So it's not a storm. It's going to be, I think, between 300 and 347 or so. Um, so that makes it a challenge because you don't have, I mean, it's like Venus. Venus is about 100 degrees hotter, which adds another layer because if you're up to date on the phase stuff, this you can actually go phase change water, get it cool enough. You can do phase change pollutant, which is what this atmosphere is, by the way. It's 100% pollutant. So you can go water to pollutant and just have a two-stage phase cooling solution that's pretty powerful. And, all in all, you'll be running 300 watts. So cheap and good. Pressure's not bad. So yeah, this world has no ice. It has no coal, and even though it's not mentioned, in the mod screen here, where was it? Oh yeah, it definitely also has no cobalt, which I found a little bit sketchy because you can't get half of the tier whatever I guess tier two alloys, but so with that in mind, we will have to do trading later in the game to get that stuff. So we can also rely on that to get more gases, but it's mainly going to be, at least for the first, I'd say, oh, 40 days or so, I'm guessing, is going to be, you know, farming to get plants to grind their recycler for biomass so that we can burn that in the furnace with iron to release the volatiles from the biomass, but also to make the steel because we're not going to have a source of volatiles except for biomass. And if we were to do composting, I mean that would use the same stuff, so that's not really a solution there. And we don't have cobalt to smelt to get volatiles from. So yeah, it's basically biomass only for volatiles. So that's going to be uh, well, it'll be interesting to start out. We're going to have to use a lot of the arc furnace, and we can basically only use the regular furnace with as low as the temperature is on the planet. It's basically going to be only good for solder, unless we have that biomass in there to release that volatiles. And then we can hopefully get it hot enough to do steel. I haven't experimented with that to see how much you know biomass we need in there to get enough volatiles to ignite. We'll probably prime it with silver to get the NOS in there, so that should get it hot enough. But I don't know how much we need to get hot enough to actually burn a batch of steel. So we'll figure that all out. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, starting conditions. So I'll be playing on stationary difficulty. Um, the the default loadout that he has is you get your option to take your water tank, your organic supplies, which has a bunch of water bottles and stuff like that. That's the old way of doing that. That can be compressed out a lot. So we're definitely going to do that. This miscellaneous crate has some interesting stuff in here, such as the Amy, which, if you don't know, that can be set up to do automatic mining, and the ores returned from that will not be off gas. Like if you do a D miner, a deep miner, those come back and you have to run through the centrifuge. You won't get any gases from those, but you will with this method. So I've never used one. I might use it. I might not. I will definitely use the included IC and computer because that stuff I can get started with early automation. It's got a handful of you know large batteries. So I think with that you get a total of you'll have one in your suit too, so you'll have four, unless there's more in here. Yeah, so you'll have five with that setup. Um, I've modified mine. I don't have that many in mine, and I think that's a fair trade off for the solar change. Uh, Basically, all the seeds, you don't need this many seeds. I mean, even with the change that they made to nutrition and stuff, you could still get by with a lot less seeds. And I'm going to keep the eggs around because, yeah, that's six eggs. If you would just let them decay, that's going to be, six biomass. If you set them all out onto your ground, they won't hatch unless you have the right condition. But they'll eventually damage themselves and then they'll break apart and there'll be a top and a bottom shell. And if you have a top and bottom shell, then you can use those and throw them into your recycler and you'll have a total of 12 biomass just from this carton of eggs. So that, you know, essentially you could take that and just go off that and do a small batch of steel and then have enough to put up a battery, um, you know, probably a battery and some pipe insulation is what you would use that for. But that would get you, or maybe, use the steel for an additional uh, IC circuit, something like that. Uh, so, you could do that without even starting a farm. Oh, yeah, the grow light, because that requires steel, is going to be the big thing. So that'll be the first thing, and then it'll be the battery, and then But anyway, if you had 12, then that gets you what 48 steel, which is enough to do both of those, and then some insulated pipe. Let's go construction wise. It's a pretty standard setup. You have two power controllers, a solid generator, which is shouldn't be. I mean, you have to have coal to do that. You're not going to waste your biomass to make the solid fuel to use a solid generator when that charcoal is the number one resource you're going to be short of. So I got rid of that to my kit. Um, I just see no need for it. That just takes up a space. So I've also packaged this stuff down into uh, similar to what it has in their new kits. Two active vents, columns for the door, advanced airlock. Um, in my opinion, you shouldn't start off with automatic, airlock. That's just extra. So there's also the water ball bag and cereal bag. That's the same as, well, that's part of the lander, or the capsule that you started now, which is not the same as, the older style with that. Mine's updated to the newer style here, and well, they just released this yesterday, so that doesn't scroll quite right with my starting conditions. Um, but yeah, I'm down to two crates, so I've got, let's just to go back to this one to see it, but I've got the landing capsule as well. So you get I think that's four water balls and yeah, six cereal bars. So I've got that in my capsule too. That's just the default capsule. That's what they all have. I haven't figured out a way to change that. So you can, not start with the lander capsule, but it's kind of fun too. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty cool. Um, um, yeah, that's interesting. So it's not showing one of my crates here. I'll have to just check to see, why that's not doing it. But this is how I have it reduced down to in this one. It's that's my food. So I got rid of all the canned stuff. You still start with one in your uniform, which in my last playthrough I was testing, everything. I think I made it to like day 6 off of that one can of soup, the tomato soup that was in my thing. So that's why I don't like it. You use a cereal bar, and if you're starving like under 10%, I think, hunger, then you'll eat a whole cereal bar. And so you can basically gauge based off that. But because we get the 6 in the lander, and then you got 12 more here, that's a good bit of food. In the uniform, there's a can of soup. So realistically, we could probably make it, what, day 30 without eating food. But farming is going to be our big thing. So, uh, you know, that's going to be, we could probably get rid of one of these easily. Same with the water, because we do start with this water tank up here, which this 10 kilmoles, 15, that actually works out to something like 90 liters of water or something like that. It's quite a bit. It's like a lot of water, a lot. Just your standard oxygen tank. I don't know why my other. Oh, here's the little custom package here that I called the nerd package. Like I said, this update they did is just came out yesterday, so this is this morning, the morning after it came out. But my nerd package is basically all the Amy stuff and the computer and stuff all put into a package. So it's, it only takes up one slot in here, and it's all uh, segregated out because we don't need it for everything else. You only need that if you're going to get into that advanced stuff. The construction box has the typical construction stuff packaged down. I do have an airlock package I put in mine that had, a manual airlock package is what I call it, that only has, you know, 2 doors, two steel, two iron. Uh, it doesn't have the console. It doesn't have the advanced airlock chip. It has 2 passive bits, 2 active bits, 2 pipe. So it's pretty simple. You can get a manual airlock going with that. Nothing, you know, nothing too crazy. Um, I think you should have to, do a little bit of resource collection before you can build out. So there's that. The seed package is in the other crate, I think. Yeah, it's in the other crate. So that one has the. I'm only giving. Let's see, mushrooms, because you have to have mushrooms to start out with, because it's going to be a while before you can get the grow light going. I've got uh, potatoes for food, switchgrass for when you switch to the grow light. Those yield a lot more. I think it's something like 15 maybe, but I've I've checked that, and that does give one biomass per each uh, of those. So that's going to be just a massive amount of coal rolling in once we have, a grow light, because that stuff grows quick and it yields a lot. So I mean, it's going to be perfect for that. Um, let's see, I've got a couple burns in there for extra filtration, because that'll eat more of the CO2, give us more O2. We're not going to have a shortage of CO2 because basically everything when it smelts puts off CO2, um, but only gold puts off oxygen. So we're going to have to be converting all of that via the plants. Let's see what else. Oh, and then I have soybeans in there. Um, Soybeans are going to be interesting because we'll have to have that to make the oil if we're going to can food, which we might do at some point, or just to take those potatoes and make French fries. because that becomes I think French fries are the highest tier food. So then we get like the 175% hydration or whatever, and that's pretty nice to have. Um, so eventually there'll be a long time down because we'll also have to have nitrogen for that, and nitrogen we can get that off copper, but um, it's definitely not as plentiful as CO2 is going to be. So and we don't have the jetpack, so we can't just use our jetpack propellant to dump in there to have the nitrogen. So that'll be a longer term thing before we can get the soybeans going, I think. Uh, we'll see about that. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else that, I mean, besides just packaging. Oh, it doesn't show on here, but the player backpack, you have, your standard loadout in there. They also threw in the GPS card in there because you do need that when setting up Amy. I'm not going to use that right away. I'm not going to plan on using that right away, so I'll just make that chip when I need it. Along with all the other chips, I went ahead and threw the atmosphere analyzer into the tablet and got rid of the other ones. We can just make those. Um, yeah, so that frees up space in the backpack. Um, I did throw in 2 ladders because I'm not using a jetpack. 2 ladders, that's a total of 4 grams of iron. I could just go ahead and make those myself, but just to get that day one to get up there and get that solar panel set up in a spot that I don't have to go and move it. As soon as I get a tiny bit of smelting done, um, you know, that's that's an easy cheat for me considering I'm taking out a lot of the extra stuff, the more advanced, materials, replacing it with 4G of iron. I think it's all right. But yeah, I guess I'll just kind of show the my existing world here just as like a teaser. I've done a couple experiment ones here, I, but yeah, this is the one I was recording, so I'll just hop into this one. I have a game plan pretty well set out, but I want to go in and do this recording from the beginning and kind of show my train of thought and everything on it. So this is the little base I have here. Rebuild out. Some grow plots here, the water filler, storage, programming. The egg still hasn't died yet. Um, programming. That's some automated arc furnace, which I'll show you out here. Don't want to get too much into this because I mean this is going to be this is after 3 hours of play, so you can see it's day 9. So I've got all the printers here double stacked. This is going to be a 2 stories. I've got 16 biomass ready to go. Recycler to throw something in here, and then the arc furnace will go ahead and automatically smelt it when it gets something in there. It'll kick it out here, and when that turns on, then that will start pulling in stuff, which will come up here when it comes out fairly cold. So as long as it's under like 160, pollutant should drain out at 6 megapascals. So that's what this setup here is. It's gonna bleed off all the pollutant completely passively. So hey, that's saving the power and the filters for filtration. And then when that's all bled out, pausing in between, batches in there, then I'm filling this up with, the gas that I'm getting from there. See, 104 degrees, that's not hot. I'm pretty sure iron puts out the hottest of the gases that I've been doing. So with gold putting out the coldest. So I in a previous run, I was seeing it average out to about 60 degrees. So we'll see where that turns out. Yeah, just to see what the planet's like here. Of course, it has to be night, but it is full of craters, big old craters. There's actually quite a bit of resources as long as you're just looking for the basic ones. I've got 6 basic solar panels up here. The sun rises over this way, and it kind of like does this short arc over here, and it'll set like over here. So this is to catch late afternoon, this is to catch the morning, and this will get the midday. So basically between sun up and sundown, I'll have at least, I mean, this thing will pull in about 700 as soon as the sun starts coming up, which is going to be shortly. Um, and so, we'll have enough, especially once we get that battery, we'll be good on power. I don't use anything that's real power hungry anyway. And so, yeah, this is where I'm at after 3 hours of play. So I'm going to do basically the same setup again, and I'll walk through that entire thing, explaining as I go and whatnot. And then if I come up with anything else, hopefully I'll have some improvements. I didn't get so far as to build out this second floor. This is going to be basically for storage and any other filtration I want to do. Just to keep it out of the way, because essentially there's a 30x30 workshop, but I wanted to go a little bit up here. This is all going to be same vacuum. You don't use much oxygen or power for that, so I'm going to do that, and then just keep back here pressurized, and until I have a huge amount of gas. And then even then I'll probably just build a new big base and keep this as a separate little workshop to to just let have at it while I'm playing around with the other stuff later game. But yeah, so that's where I'm at with this, and yeah, should be fun.